Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, people of all neurodiversity, people of all color, welcome to Speaking of the Spectrum, a podcast for everybody, whether you are autistic, you are a family member or a friend of somebody who's autistic, or not even related to somebody autistic and just looking for a good conversational gem between two pals. This is a podcast for you and for everyone. I am the man with the plan from Pakistan, Shahrukh Sultan. I've said this before. Project manager by day, Autism Society, Greater Hudson Region, vice president on some days, and most importantly, every day and on many hours of the night, autism parent. Introducing my co-host, also reintroducing my co-host, fellow autism dad, the duck that's amok, the financial guru, the human Kaizen expert. The list goes on and on. He's a Swiss Army knife. But aside from all his achievements, he is just an average Joe. Trust me, you can know that by just looking at his tie today. Joe Templin, take it away.
Shahrukh, it is always great to sit down with you, and I'm really looking forward to talking to our guest because she is the former vice president, so she held your position previously and has done some significant work. But we got a couple other things to talk about before we bring her on board.
But I will introduce her so everyone can get introduced to how awesome she is. She has a nickname that we'll get to in just a second. But Mary Kavaney, you are a cybersecurity lawyer, right, by profession. Another fellow autism parent. Will be talking a lot about that. You have spearheaded a very important program that we'll talk about today, which is ASAP, our swimming program for our special kids. And then your nickname is Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Because if you come to any of our events, especially our Autism 5K and our Hero Walk that's coming up, you will find Wonder Woman. And she luckily did not bring her lasso of truth today, because if she did, Joe and I would be in severe trouble. Mary, thanks for letting us some time today. So good to have you today.
Me.
Yep. Joe, what's on the menu today? What's our appetizer?
Donuts?
He did actually bring donuts today.
Apple cider donuts, because it's fall here.
Yeah.
So we're going to have our speaking of the spectrum in different languages as usual. We're going to have a fact, and we're going to have a hero. I think you should bring up the hero, actually, because it sort of ties in with some of the other things.
Let's change examples of this. Sure, yeah. So the hero today, actually, this is no coincidence, but the hero today has to do with swimming, something you might interest you, Mary. There's a kid named Cyrus Kia. We just got done with the Paralympics in Paris. And this kid's from New Jersey, and apparently he had a shot at actually being at the Paralympics for swimming. What's amazing about him, he's nonverbal and autistic. And when I was watching, the video about him and what led to success, obviously it was his parents. Like we've said many times, parents have to be the advocate. You have to really step out of your comfort zone, do something special for your kids. Like I'll mention real quick, one of the things his dad said was he kind of breaks down the abilities, right? There's perceived ability, there's perceived inability, and then perceived disability, right? So you focus on the ability, you focus on that, fine tune it. That was one reason for success. And the other was obviously a swimming instructor who communicates, it's challenging communicating with a nonverbal kid, which I will hear a lot from Mary in a bit. But yeah, that's amazing. Like, I mean, I always say this selfishly. I really set up this entire podcast just to make me a better parent and learn about how to be better at my job. This is a great scheme, my evil scheme. But right, like you learn so many things. Like if I learned that an autistic nonverbal kid, which is like just like my son, has success to have a shot at the Paralympics through swimming. And we talked to Rodney Mogan last season too. Like he found his voice through swimming as well, right? So that's phenomenal. And with that, Mary, I'd want to hear more about, obviously, ASAP program, but why do you feel swimming? Why swimming? How did you get into it? What have you seen? Share those experiences.
Yeah, my son is 19. His name is Jack. He's very high needs. And when he was younger, the aggression started. And it was middle school and up. Yeah. He got to be very large. And so what I swam in college, so I've been swimming my whole life. And so I'd take him swimming before school as behavior modification. And so my goal always was to make him happy and calm when he went to school, so he wouldn't grab the teachers, the other children, or us.
That's interesting. So you would go before school, so like early in the morning.
Well, we'd get in and out and get him to school by 9. It was always a race, yes.
Yeah, wow. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and so there's no magic bullet, as everybody knows. There's not one thing that will make your kid happy and adjusted every day, but it did work to calm him down. And the other thing is it was for his health and his happiness and to be calm. And so when he went away from school, I thought, how are these other children that didn't have parents that swam in college or whatever, how are they going to learn? And so that's why I started the program.
That's awesome. I mean, we've said many times, especially last season, we had this string of a theme going on where we said, like, if you make things accommodate them for autistic people, you make it better for everybody, right? And there's that theme, like, you go exercise in the morning. Like, how many times have we said that for everyone? Like, exercise in the morning before your day starts, and you apply that, right? Like, you do it, I do it. Like, I don't do it as much as you do, but I do. It just sets the day. But like for autistic kids especially, it's just again, I've learned something new today. I'm going to try that out if I can. Yeah.
Yes.
But talk to us about this program specifically. Now, obviously, you're our friend, you're on the same team, the Autism Society, Greater Hudson Region, former vice president. But then you started this program. What is it called exactly? What's the acronym? What does it stand for?
ASAP stands for Autism Aquatic Swim Program, and really trying to push some proactive sort of imminence to everything, that it's really important that our kids learn how to swim. I've talked to all sorts of parents. Some of the parents don't think our kids can learn to swim. And so there's a lot of misunderstanding about, can our kids learn? Will they be competent? My son can swim 40 lengths of the pool. And now I've been working with him for years and years, but all of those children can learn to swim. And it's so important because they're unsafe around the water without the right training. They wander, they're very spontaneous, as you guys know. They love the touch and feel of water. And so if they're not put in the right situation to learn to swim with somebody that knows how to teach our kids, then they're going to fail. I talked to family after family. I tried this gym or that gym. I'm not trying to disparage any program, but our kids generally, my son went to one swim lesson. He grabbed the girl next to him, or she grabbed her hair, and that was the end of swim lessons. And so most of the families I speak to have very similar experiences. So
then what is your training and the other instructors you hire and the coaches, how is their training different from other instructors? And like, for example, if I would bring my son there, I know he's grabby. I know the first day he's probably not going to get in the water at all, or it'll take a lot of screaming and kicking, who knows, right? And I'm asking also on behalf of other prospective parents, right, have the same kind of question. Like you said, we're very hesitant to, like, my kid's autistic. I won't trust him running on the street, let alone put him in water. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But there's a factor on that too, right? And it ties into our, I think we've talked about this fact, but Mary, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, I'm certified through Swim Angelfish, so if any parents are listening, get the guards trained by Swim Angelfish, and there's social stories available. But it's a concept of our kids learn differently. When they get in the water many times, it's like they're on, they're in space. They don't feel grounded. They're low toned. So sometimes there's little weights you put on the ankles and the wrists just to sort of ground them. The other thing is, I worked for a while with the Michael Phelps Autism Swim School. You teach at a time where nobody's there. I teach on Sunday afternoons. We have the whole pool to ourselves where I teach, and it's one-on-one. So there'll be 5 or 6 kids in the water, but they each have their own instructor. And they're different parts of the pool. We try to keep it quiet and calm. We use a lot of pictures. I have laminated cards. I just made new ones because I didn't like my old ones. And so we'll learn to blow bubbles through pushing a ping pong ball through the water by blowing it. So it's watch something, then do it, keep it calm, make sure they're comfortable, those kinds of things. And they don't have time for that in group lessons, really.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of patience, right? Like, it's not, as a parent, you can't expect day one to be successful. Like you
That's
can say
right.
for any kid, a young kid joining anything, any kind of class. But especially in this situation, you really got to understand, like, I guess the first day, second day, third day will be tough, but eventually they'll, like, has that been your experience, or have you seen a high rate of success? Or?
Yeah, you know what? I can't put like a number on the number of kids. What I always look at is, are they going to be safer, right? What my son does is not a standard breaststroke or freestyle or whatever, but he motors through the water and he's safe, right? I think it's like introducing pieces of equipment like fins. The little kids love that. It pushes them through the water, making sure that they're not, that they're really aware of that they could be in danger, right? If you wear water wings forever, you think you can swim, but you can't, right? So we sort of take away some of those distractions. And can they grab the wall? If they get the wall, can they get down the side of the pool? And making it fun for them, making it sing-songy, even... Can you get in the water? If you get in the water, mom and dad are going to make you do a song before you even get in the bathtub at night. Because if you do that song every time you're ready to get in, then the lifeguard's aware, the parents are aware, and we do a little song every day, and before lessons. And so I think it's just better awareness for the family and the children about being safe, but also having fun. It's important to have fun, right?
Yep. And speaking of having fun, someone's having a lot of fun today sitting quietly with a very animated tie. So I'm going to let the camera go to Joe for a bit, and maybe Joe's going to share us. And we've been doing this thing with the autism in different languages, right? But first, talk to me about the choice of tie, and then we'll go to the...
What? Everybody loves Looney Tunes.
Loves Looney Tunes, yeah.
And... it's
feeling just, loony today.
It's a little bright. It's a little happy.
Yeah.
I wanted to contrast a little bit because our subject today is potentially a little on the dark side in some ways because, as Mary might bring up, that drowning is the number one danger to kids in our community. You want to talk about that real quick, Mary?
Certainly. Just if the kids aren't taught right, our kids drowned. First of all, drowning's one of the highest causes of death for all children, but our children drown at a much higher rate than their neurotypical peers, 160 times that of neurotypical kids.
And our kids are drawn to the water like the moth to the flame.
Yes.
So one of the things that Mary's program does is it teaches them to be comfortable around the water. And when you're more comfortable around things, you don't panic.
Yep.
And when I was learning how to scuba dive years ago, we were told that was the number one thing when you're under the water. And so getting that familiarity for our kids is critical because there is so many different ways that they could get harmed, and swimming pools in general actually are relatively dangerous. In fact, swimming pools are more dangerous than guns in terms of the rate at which they cause problems and harm individuals.
And like sometimes the difference between survival and catastrophe is that few seconds of panic and the parents' reaction and the kids' reaction, right? And if you can counter that with just a little bit of lessons and some comfort with water.
Can I tell a story?
Oh, yeah, please.
And this is actually about my neuronormal kid.
Okay.
So when he was about 3.5 years old, we were at my parents' cabin in the Catskills. And he's got on his sweatshirt and everything, and he's standing at the end of the dock. And I had eyes on him, obviously, and everything. All of a sudden, Liam goes over the end.
Oh, wow.
And so I whip my phone out, go running down the stairs. In the water, I look down. He's just looking up at me.
Oh, wow.
8 feet under the water, so we know Liam doesn't float, Yeah. Jump on in, pull him out, He was not upset, not scared. This is my crazy redheaded kid who Mary's laughing because she's met him multiple times. So, but, that, another 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it would have been game over for him. If I was not being fully attentive the way that those of us who have kids on the spectrum are always on high alert, which we can talk about the long-term effects of that at some other point. But it literally can happen that quick. And so that's why, whether you have neuronormal kids or neurospicy, you need to be paying attention to them in these situations, and you need to give them the skills because you can't always be there for them.
So that actually reminds me of something I read about recently, and I don't know how much I can trust Instagram facts. I don't think it's no WebMD for sure, but it does put certain things in perspective sometimes, right? The thing I read, and I'm totally disclaimer, I've not fact checked this, but it said that there was an analysis done, and it said that the stress levels that autism parents can tolerate are similar to those of frontline soldiers.
I would absolutely believe
Absolutely,
that.
right? Like you could, I could. That's why I said,
Having
like,
worked with both, yes.
yeah, like I haven't fact checked this. I don't want to test it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I have been tested, right? Like there's a lot of times at work, even people are like, "Well, how did you manage a stressful situation at work?" I'm like, "I'm an autism parent, man. Like I just like
This is easy. This is a
this is
cakewalk.
like, you know, like it's fine. Like yeah, but that goes in what you were saying, right? That like we have to be so on point, attentive every time. Like our entire setup at home is around my kid, right? Like he has his room, his space. We've set up. It's funny when I set up ADD security at home, all the alarms and cameras, and you know, friends and family would ask like, "You live in a safe area. No one's gonna get in." I'm like, it's not about who's gonna get in. It's about who's gonna get out. In the middle of the night.
Exactly.
It's all set up for that.
Or
right?
who's going to get hurt. And
Yeah.
that actually leads into us thanking our sponsors, because we have Pulse MD, who has graciously sponsored us for both seasons.
Yep.
And if you mess yourself up, they will help put you back together again. So they're going to love
Yep.
me.
And they have
And-
7 locations, 8th in Florida, so you can't miss.
And our good friend Teddy Pan from Pan Dermatology, who hopefully we'll see him at the walk because he always has a great costume.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Teddy, thank you from Pan Dermatology for what you do in terms of supporting us. But, you know, it's that those medical components are really critical. And it's not just the awareness or the potential for injury. I mean, this is the sort of thing that puts autism parents and brothers and sisters on high alert constantly. And there are a significant amount of negative effects on the family members beyond just the normal economic costs of being able to take care of an autistic child. I mean, I pulled up a statistic, and this could be another one of our facts, but the economic impact from autism spectrum individuals in the United States in 2015 was $268 billion. And by 2025, next year, it's projected to be almost $500 billion.
Wow.
Wow.
And that's why it's so important to fund, and you know, where you can support organizations like the Autism Society, specifically our Autism Society Greater Hudson Region. We cover 21 counties now.
Yep. You
in
might
New
want
York
to give the
State.
website for that so people can make donations.
The website, and I was just getting to that, Joe, thank you, is Autism Society Greater Hudson Region. So that's asghr.org. If you hit /podcast after that, you'll come to our webpage for a podcast where we can catch recent episodes and watch a fun little trailer. But
Maybe
there's
even donate and get one of these cool mugs.
let's talk about how you can get one of these cool mugs, Joe. You had an idea last episode. Let's refresh that. And
So these are special limited edition mugs that only the hosts, our incredible sound engineer Tyler, who hides behind the camera so doesn't want to be seen, and certain other special individuals get. And you can have one of these if you are one of the first 2 individuals to make a $500 donation to ASGHR.
there you go. And if you're local, we will fill it up with coffee and bring it to you and hang out, have a sip of coffee together.
Absolutely.
Shifting the conversation a little bit, from the swimming aspect, but also we were talking about supporting our kids, right? Mary, I understand Jack goes to a different school or facility, right?
Yeah, he goes to the Center for Discovery in Harris, New York. It's right by Monticello.
And that's about 2 hours away from you.
Yep, that's right.
So, if I may ask, that's one of, you know, like as an autism parent, it's the greatest fear of letting go of your kid, right? There's a reason I call you Wonder Woman. You're an absolute. We've talked about the soldier part of it, but Wonder Woman's like a superhero that's beyond a soldier, right? Like, how do you deal with that? Like having your piece of you 2 hours away all week, right? Like, how was that process? And like for other parents who might be fearful of it, help them overcome that?
Yeah. I guess what I would say is that there's a book, and not to sort of get wayward in thought process, but it's called You Before I. And I think that that's sort of the process that you need to think about with respect to your child. When Jack became a teenager, he got aggressive. And I couldn't really hold him, or restrain him. My husband would have to. And he was really just doing that because he wasn't happy. Wasn't happy at school. We couldn't put in enough structure. The pandemic was awful for our children. Yeah. My son didn't have school for a couple of months during the pandemic at all. Online didn't work for him. So it was very upsetting, tumultuous years. And so it got to the point where he just was very unhappy, and we did a lot of research into different schools, and I think that each family has to make their own decision. It's heartbreaking, but I think what you have to remember is you know your child. Where will he or she be happy? Is it at your home? My son spends a lot of time in his bed on his iPad at our house.
It's the same exactly with mine.
Yeah, I mean, I take him swimming and walks every day, but outside of that, that's what his time was spent doing, that or jumping on his, bouncing on his ball. And at a lot of these places, the Center for Discovery, I can't say enough good things about them. It's a third academic, a third vocation, and a third exercise. So in a regular public school, our kids need exercise and need a class, then go on a walk, learn some vocation, go on a walk or do something. And so I think it's about, where do you, in your heart of hearts, believe that your child to be best and happy? My son he's only home a day or two, and he asks to go back to school. So it, but when you first do it, when you first start researching, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. And I imagine there would have been an adjusting period too, right? Like it's different for everybody. We're not talking days, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's been gone 3 years, and it took me. I'm still adjusting. Yeah, to be honest.
I totally hear that. But no. Again, you're a superhero. We'll call you Wonder Woman for a reason. It's tough, right? But no, thank you for sharing that.
Certainly.
Yeah. One of our segments is, speaking of superheroes, this character called Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds, who had a movie on time travel called The Atom Project. And I stole that name because I want to get his attention and see if he will...
And his checks.
Yeah, and his checks. See if he will serve as a cease and desist letter to stop using his movie's name. And the movie's name, The Atom Project, we were trying to steal it because we call it the Autism Dads and Moms, ADAM Project. And on that part of it, we usually share like a parenting tip or an experience or something, with our viewers, or get some feedback from them, and share that. So unless, Joe, if you have something pressing and burning to share, I have one experience I can share.
You were telling me you got something pretty insightful to share.
Yeah. So like Mary, you and I were talking before, and you called it was it invitation back from school? What did you call it?
An invitation to leave school.
An invitation to leave school, right? So we got one of those recently, and our season premiere was back to school, right? So obviously the first day of school for my son this year was the same day I had to fly out for work, and I tried to take a flight after his drop-off time so at least I could take care of that. But for whatever reason, at the moment, we didn't decide to send him to school that day. But when I'm on the plane, as I'm about to, board and shut off the phone, my wife lets me know that, hey, actually, our son's doing pretty okay today. He's in a good mood. Maybe I'll try to drop him off. And I was like, oh, this is a great win. Oh, great. So by the time I landed my connection, I hear he went happy. He hugged the teacher on the first day. It's like he's been missing her all summer. Fantastic. I'm good. I know tomorrow's going to fly by. I don't have to feel guilty about being away from home at all, right? So that was my mistake. Anyway, jokes aside, so Friday, the very next day, we hear the invitation out of school came where they said he's not doing so well. He's feeling clingy. Maybe he didn't sleep well. Maybe he's missing his dad. Please come pick him up early, which, we're not unaccustomed to. So my wife went and brought him back. But since then, he was really off his balance, right? And we're dealing with anxiety issues and restlessness and not sleeping right and constantly wanting something else. It was a stressful week then. He didn't go to school. So when I came back from my trip, obviously I saw there was a bit of a bruise on his arm. that was clearly from that day and Friday, and I don't feel like I had all the facts together. So, I emailed the school principal and his teacher and his last year's teacher and the school counselor and said, hey, look, I just need to get some facts. Can we have an in-person meeting? I'm trying to be respectful. In long story short, we ended up having a good meeting with the school, very productive. They did their homework. We came with our notes. We met together. But the Adam Project, the parenting tip for this, for me was, as a parent, your gut reaction is going to be a little combative even with the school. Like, hey, what happened to this kid? Like, I need to talk to the principal right now. We took it a little bit different approach. We're like, look, we're in it together. We're a team. The teachers are a team. Therapists are a team. Parents are a team. Teachers are part of the same team. What happened was what happened, right? We understand the kid. Obviously, there's a part of this frustration that's associated. We've seen it before. Let us share how we've dealt with it at home, how we've learned to do it. Tell us what you've done or what you're doing. Let's come up with a plan together. And we came up with a really solid plan. We're going to transition him back into full schedule. Here's where we're going to escalate before. We came up with a few different things, but it's very productive, right? But imagine you got a call as a neurotypical kid, said, hey, he wasn't acting right, behaving right. We had to restrain him in school, whatever. Your initial reaction is like, fume off, right? But then taking a moment just to step back, be like, yeah, this is the reality of it, right? Mm-hmm. Let's reset. Let's collaborate on this. I know the school's not out there to get after the kid. They want him to be successful. They want to come back. They're answerable to the school board too, right?
And their first concern should be, and generally is, safety. Yep. Safety of that child and the other people around them too.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Joe, did you have a word?
I have lots of words.
I know you have lots of them. Do you have a word in a different language? Before we wrap up.
Yes. So for individuals who maybe are just tuning on in because of our wonderful guest, Mary Kavaney, normally we try to extend the discussion and expand our perspective by looking at how autism is described in other languages. And so we're going to go to Icelandic because, I'm a good Vikings fan and they won again this weekend. So in Icelandic, it is einhörfer. I probably slaughtered that, please forgive me. And that translates roughly to revolve around self. So in most of the languages that we have discussed, it is similar to in the Anglo-Saxon and most of the Romance languages, it's around self, where the focus is. So the revolve around self is very similar to what the Somali were talking about in terms of being focused on self and some of the other ones that we talked about.
Yeah, and it goes back to the root meaning, right? It's about, like, autism is about of the self or the solo or in like in Urdu, I remember, because it was the state of the khud, the yourself.
And so one of the big themes that we're seeing across multiple languages here is, I don't want to call it a disconnect, but it is a lack of direct translation between the individual on the spectrum and others because, as it's sometimes described, those of us who are neuronormal cannot necessarily understand nor communicate properly with individuals who are on the spectrum. And so there's a little bit of lost in translation there, not between different languages, but between different individuals.
Right.
And so if we can try and understand more, try and be more empathetic, understand what set the kid off, why they're thinking this, what can help them and calm them, that's where we're going to get a lot of the progress in being able to have a more inclusive society overall.
Right. And how are we going to build a more inclusive society, Joe?
There's really just one great way, and that is that we have to just keep continuing to be speaking of the spectrum.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mary. I hope you had a good time. We had a great time today. Hope you all had a great time. Tune in next episode where we have a local hero, Assemblyman Angelo Santa Barbara. It's going to be exciting. Catch you guys later. Bye-bye.